So if everybody take their seat, we need to get started in a few minutes. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for being here today. GSAC has been putting on these forums for a number of years, and I must say that this is probably the best crowd that we have. And more importantly, I think you can feel honored because you are essentially being in a studio for a live telecast of this forum. So the reason we have the technical people around, we have Robert doing the cameras, we have 3 cameras, we have Jose doing all the technical things, and we have Cindy Woolley in North Carolina directing the whole thing. So we hope it all goes exactly as planned. I think it will. So we had a little rehearsal last night, and some of us are a little tired this morning, but that's okay. So anyway, again, thank you for being here. As I indicated, GSAC, the Gulf Shore Association of the Condominiums, has been doing these candidate forums for a number of years, and our primary purpose is to educate people on Gulf Shore Boulevard and in the other buildings that belong to GSAC, so that as you go to the polls and vote, you're well educated with all of the people who are running. And this year in particular, we have 5 candidates for 3 positions. I think, as all of you know, this is a nonpartisan election, and it's an election at large, so it's the top 3 voters that get, the top 3 vote getters that get elected. So we thought it was particularly important for us to get the 5 candidates together today so that you had an opportunity to hear what they had to say. So here's the process. So last Friday, we provided each of the candidates with the questions that they're going to cover this morning. And the questions are in the little brochure that was on your seat, so you can follow along. Now the fun thing about this for all of us is going to be, and it's probably not going to be a lot of fun for the candidates, is they have 15 minutes to go through all this. They have 1 minute to do an opening, and they have 12 minutes to go through the questions, and they have 2 minutes to close. And so because of our time commitment on the internet, we need to be finished on time. So I'll introduce the moderator in a second, as well as our timekeeper. So we're going to keep this thing moving ahead. So each candidate has the questions. I got them on Friday. This will essentially be one-on-one interviews. So the candidate will be here, the moderator will be there, and the moderator will lead through the questions. So, and our format does not provide for questions from the people who attended, but you can feel free to send questions to our website. I think there's a link to do that, and we'll try and get them to the candidates and get back to you. So again, I want to say welcome to everybody who's in the room. I want to say welcome to everybody who's streaming and online. And with that note, I think we're ready to start. So again, just a little bit of background. The City of Naples did a visioning study in 2019, and all of the questions today are wrapped around the 5 key elements from that visioning study. And they have to do with our place, the environment, the quality of life here, governance, and security. So we thought those would be the most appropriate things for you all to hear what they had to say. So anyway, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Howard Handler. Howard would stand up. Howard is our moderator today. If we'd give him a big round of applause. So Howard's done this before. He's a real professional at it, as you'll see very quickly, and we're delighted that he agreed to do this. He's one of our board members. And the person who's going to do the timing for us today is Daryl Shaw, and if Daryl will stand up. Thank you. His job is to keep everybody on target, and just for the rest of you, there are a few more board members here. They're all scattered around the back of the room. I'm not going to ask them to stand up, but I'm sure you'll get to meet them as you leave, or you did coming in. So again, thank you for being here, and I think we get the show on the road. Howard?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm not feeling any pressure by that introduction here. If you will, give a warm round of applause to our first candidate, Ray Chrisman. Morning, Ray.
Good morning, Howard.
How are you? Good to see you. So I'm going to be very brief because when I talk, I take into their time. So we'll start with your 1 minute opening, if you will.
Well, thank you, Howard, and thanks to David and the entire GSAC board for organizing this, and thanks to all of you who, by coming here this morning, are showing your real interest in the city of Naples and its future, because that's what this election and all city council elections are about. Briefly, I started this journey back in 2019 when I ran for an open seat on council in a special election that was held that year. I did so because I had beliefs and views that I thought needed to be expressed on council that were not getting the kind of attention that they should. And apropos of what David said a moment ago about the vision survey, it was when that document was being developed and over 2,000 residents were participating in that process. I articulated 4 priorities during that first campaign that are still my priorities today. Protect our environment, clean water and healthy beaches. Number 2, make sure that our development is managed properly, that our codes are strengthened and enforced fairly and consistently from a development standpoint. 3, that we sustain the excellent quality of life that we have in this city and improve it where we can. And number 4, that we have transparent, ethical and responsive local government with a particular focus on public health and safety. Those are my priorities in 2019 and what my platform is really built around today, with obvious adjustments when you unpack all that for the issues that are before us today and what we'll talk about in this next 20 minutes.
Very good, and then we'll just move right on into the first bullet point that everybody has before them, and you have, Ray, is our place. A concern expressed by many residents is we're losing the small town character and culture many came here to experience. There's a few aspects to that question, if you will.
Yes, and I think the question really has to do with how do you define it. And I think there's 2 ways to define our small town character and culture, which gets talked about a lot. The first has to do with the physical environment we live in, the built environment. And that really has to do with issues around height, density, and intensity, things associated with the look and feel of the city in terms of the built environment. The second aspect of it is more intangible in terms of what makes a small town and creates small town character, and it really has to do with community. We are a city of neighborhoods. Those neighborhoods are not all the same, but we are a city of neighborhoods that we all care very much about the neighborhoods we live in. And what we're looking for, I think, people who live in Naples and come to Naples, is a sense of community, going to a restaurant that's accessible nearby and where you're actually going to see people you know when you go there. A feeling of being able to walk up and down the streets peacefully with quiet enjoyment, and again, see people you know and feel you're part of a town that where you have friends and neighbors. And that is what Naples has been and continues to be. Sure, it's not 1965 here anymore. It's not even 1985, and things have changed. But I do think that we do have a small town character and culture, and that's what people want to try to protect and preserve and improve however they can.
Very good, thank you. Moving on to our nature, specifically on clean water, sea level rises, et cetera, if you will.
Yes, I have as some of you may know, a particular background in conservation. I've worked in that field over the years, and most recently for a national organization called the Trust for Public Land and oversaw their East Coast operations, including the state of Florida, before I retired back in 2017. So this is something that is in my head and in my heart, and I think the quality of our environment is something that not only brought us all here, but really also we increasingly realize, perhaps more so after the Irma in 2017 and the red tide fiasco of 2018, it's critical to our quality of life and our economy. If Naples doesn't have a quality environment, we will not have a successful economy, and it affects, obviously, potentially even our own property values. So it's important on many levels. Clean water is the central aspect of this, and it's an area where the city of Naples can do the most to try to make a difference. The city of Naples can is responsible for stormwater management, water and sewer, wastewater planning, and it's an area that we're particularly investing time and money in. I've put a lot of my time and energy into it, and right here in Park Shore, I've been working for the last several years on a project with residents who live around Swan Lake. And I'll just say a few words about it because I think it's important, not just because of its location here in Park Shore, but what it's representative of more broadly. Swan Lake is a lake that the residents have been trying to clean up for years. It discharges into Moorings Bay. It has been viewed at times as a major contributor to pollution in Moorings Bay, although the real problem is the pollution that's coming into Swan Lake from other sources in the city. And working with residents and also people from the city staff, we met for 18 months and put together a pilot program for how we could clean and restore Swan Lake and, by extension, improve Moorings Bay. And we set up a pilot program, which the City Council then subsequently approved, funded, and it's in place right now. It's a great illustration of a public-private partnership that has worked right here in the city of Naples. And it could be replicated in other lakes in Park Shore and other parts of the city as well. The important point is that these lakes, which are really stormwater retention ponds, can be important vehicles for making sure that Moorings Bay and other bodies of water in the city are kept clean.
Thank you. I know it's a lot to get in a short period of time. Thank you. Moving on to our experience, seawalls, sidewalks along the bay, integral part of the enjoyment of our community and the problems that we've experienced over the last many years, if you will.
Sure. Again, going back to when I ran for council in 2019, I first learned about the Venetian Village seawall problem. And as I learned about it, I was really dumbfounded, because what we had was a situation where the city of Naples had been in litigation for, what, at that time, 7 years maybe, with its own residents fighting over who pays for rebuilding what I saw as fundamentally a piece of important public infrastructure. And after being elected, I committed to myself that I was going to do everything I could to try to resolve this situation. And it took a little while, but earlier this year, City Council did reach a settlement with the owners of the various yacht clubs and properties in Venetian Village that were involved in that litigation. We settled in a fair and equitable way, and we accepted responsibility, we the city, for the seawalls. And the first phase of the reconstruction, 700 feet in what's known as Outlot E, in the most damaged part of the seawall, has now been approved by City Council. Scope of services is in the process of being developed, and bids will be let for getting a contractor to come in and fix it. And the remaining 2,500 feet will be repaired in the subsequent. It'll probably take a year to 18 months to get it all done. But I think one of the questions was, how are we going to pay for this? And we'll pay for it through a combination of general funds and issuance of debt as necessary. But one way or another, I think it's important for you all to know that we've committed to fixing that, not just the seawalls, but the adjoining sidewalks in an area of Park Shore that is one of the most popular areas for people to enjoy, walk, and just spend time.
Thank you. We all look forward to that completion. Moving on then to the economy. A vibrant and profitable business community ranks high in importance. There's a couple aspects to that question.
Just want to refresh my memory on the components of it
Not
here.
a problem. Thank you for doing so.
So this talks about the 4110 master plan and affordable housing. The city of Naples, just to make sure everybody knows this, has a CRA, a community redevelopment area, and a community redevelopment agency that was set up back in the mid-1990s. And the area that it's covers includes Fifth Avenue South, and it was really set up originally to help accelerate the rebuilding and rebooting of Fifth Avenue South, which speaks for itself as a success story. And then the area on the east side of Route 41, where Naples Square now is, and 10th Street and River Park and other areas. When I took over as head of the CRA and chair of the CRA in April of last year, I felt that the time had come to really refocus our attention on the 4110 area, the 10th Street area east of 41. And we commissioned earlier this year a master planning process for that area. And we hired Andres Doiney's firm, Andres Doiney, a world-renowned architect and planner who did the original Fifth Avenue study. They're in the middle of that study now. We just completed in November a week-long charrette process. Hundreds of people from the community came in, shared their ideas, and they'll finish their plan for that area in March of this year. And it'll be very, very important because it's really the last part of the city, when you think about it, that still remains, that is still ready for redevelopment. And the message we got from the residents so far is pretty consistent and clear, which is let's make 10th Street in that area something unique and with its own personality and identity. We don't need another Fifth Avenue. We have one. We don't need another 3rd Street. This can be a third commercial corridor that can really be another area where people can shop, go to restaurants, and enjoy what Naples has to offer.
The next item is our governance. High-performing and efficient government is a requirement. What are your thoughts on how the current city council is working and how we go about making changes to improve its effectiveness?
Well, I think what's going on right now with city council is essentially perfect, with one exception. If our meetings could be a little longer, we would reach perfection. That's the only thing that's sort of missing, just a little longer. I think what this question gets at is, how is city council functioning, with a council that has changed so dramatically in composition just in the last couple of years. And there's been lots of comments about long meetings and staff turnover and so on. I think we have two issues here that are of note and concern. Number one is that we have had turnover at the senior level with city managers, and I thought both Mr. Chapman, who left in May, and Mr. Souza, who left in November, were actually excellent. Mr. Souza found a new job up in, was offered, really taken from us by an opportunity up in Sanibel Island, and we now have a new interim city manager, Mr. Di Maria, who I think is also excellent. In fact, I think we should seriously think about making him the permanent city manager. He's been working for city government for 30 years, did a fantastic job of re-energizing and rebuilding our fire department. He's a great manager, and it's something that I think we should seriously think about, just to make that decision and get it done sooner rather than later. In terms of the other issue, and the one I really want to spend a minute talking about, is our police department and our first responders. There's been a lot of discussion in the community, I'm sure you've been part of it, about the situation with vacancies in the police department, and it is a problem. We've got right now 13 vacancies in our uniformed officer corps. That's over 20% of the total complement there. And what's driving it more than anything else, probably 90% of the reason, is compensation. We're in the process of developing reaching agreement on a new labor contract with the first responders, both police and fire. It'll be a multi-year contract. I can't talk about it in detail, but I can tell you that I've pushed very, very hard for almost a year now that we need to significantly raise pay with our first responders, because we're way below market with Marco Island, Cape Coral, Collier County, and all the places we compete with. We're probably on average 16% below market. And we don't want to just be at market. Naples should be in the top quartile and getting the very best to come here. I'm a strong believer that the first priority for local government is public health and safety. Our police do a fantastic job. I've had direct experience with them myself when about a year ago, in the midst of the COVID crisis, because of some of the issues that were before City Council, my wife and I received some direct threats. And the police response on that was absolutely marvelous. The way they handled the social protests in the summer of 2020, the way they handled the overcrowding of the beaches. We've seen the job they do, and we need to have them properly paid, fully funded. I've received the endorsement of both the police and firefighters in this election, which is something I'm most proud of. And I think we will find a way in the next 30 to 60 days to get a new contract that sets us back on the road to where we need to be.
We're ready for your closing. We might have to cut it slightly short because of our
Well, I'll be brief.
thank you.
In closing, I just, again, want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here. When I was elected in 2019, I made 3 commitments to myself. One was that I would try to serve as a city councilor in a way that was consistent with the pledges and promises that I made to the community in my votes and in my actions. And I've tried to do that, and I think I've done that. Number 2, that I would communicate proactively with the community, both through written newsletters and through individual interactions, and always have my door open to conversations. And number 3, that I would be a counselor for all of Naples. We're elected citywide, every neighborhood matters, and neighborhoods each have their own individual issues, but it's important that every city councilman understand those issues and try to be responsive to them if at all possible, and I've tried to do that. Naples is at a very pivotal time right now in its history because of the pressures that have been brought to us because of growth in the county, the pandemic, and many other things. So we need people on city council who have the experience, the expertise, the background, and to take on these challenges and try to reach pragmatic, realistic decisions that are good for the city that we live in and will have the support of the residents. I've tried to do that. I will continue to do that if given the opportunity, and I hope I can earn your support and vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray. Our next candidate will be Terry Hutchison. By the way, I'd like to ask if everyone will silence their cell phone for the presentation. Really, really thank you for that. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning. I'm good. How are you? Thank you.
All right. Well, we have about a minute for you to start your opening, if you will, and then we'll get into the questions.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's good to see everybody here. Can everybody see me, or should I stand? I'm not really sure. Stay seated, the cameraman says. Well, my name's Terry Hutchison. I'm currently your vice mayor. Been serving you for close to 4 years now. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's been a great privilege to serve the community, and I'm looking to serve another term. So I come from originally from Oklahoma. I have a family, a wife of 36 years. It's a long time, but in some ways it's not long enough. I have a daughter and a son, grown. My daughter is a lawyer here in downtown Naples, and my son works in Louisiana. So we live in Lake Park, and I think that'll get us started. Thank
Very
you.
good. And my partner in crime here, Daryl's the timekeeper. So
Good.
as he starts to give me some signals, I've got to get you from one topic to
Sure.
the next. So we'll start with our place. And I won't repeat these questions for the audience. They haven't before. You haven't before you. But if you will, we'll take that as our first question.
Well, thank you. And by the way, when I looked at the questions here, there were I counted 17 questions. I'm going to give you more complete answers to about 5 of those. Some of the questions are going to be much shorter, okay? So, first of all, there's a concern, you know the question, concerned about losing the small town character and culture. I disagree with the premise that we are losing our small town character and culture. The reality is that 4 years ago, many residents believed we were losing the small town culture because they saw it in action. Let me remind you of what was happening and attempt to influence you to not go back to the old ways. Under former leadership, City Council was led to sue voters to deny them the right to vote on an ethics petition, spending $250,000 of taxpayer money. To be clear, a group of citizens gathered the required number of certified signatures only to have the City Council sue them. That's not right. Is that small town character and culture? No. The old City Council rubber stamped 100% of developers' site plan deviations. Almost every variance to our building code was approved. Is this small town character and culture? No. The old council repeatedly breached the 42-foot city charter height limit of buildings. Is this small town character and culture? No, it isn't. And under the leadership of the former administration, a backroom deal was crafted to build a parking garage in a residential neighborhood. Is that small town character and culture? No, it isn't. Underfunded stormwater remediation by $42 million. Is that small town character and culture? No. If you want more of that type of activity, elect those who have already publicly stated they want to accelerate growth. That's an actual quote. If you want more of the same, elect those who are motivated to continue the old ways. Check it out yourself. The question's been posed by the GSAC board. What will you do to reverse this trend? The issues I described smack of big city wheeling and dealing. Small town culture is about not bringing big city issues to our community. I've kept my commitment to stop this runaway race to compromise our values and destroy our beloved city. Judge me by my actions, not by my words. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our nature. And if you have any clarification you need on those questions there, please.
Okay, if you're interested in actions to reverse the decline of water quality and actually improve water quality, I recommend that you elect representatives who have the resolve, the will, to hold others accountable for following the strengthened codes which this council has developed related to water quality. And we've done a lot of work in this regard, folks, and it isn't easy. It takes time. It takes debating. It takes listening to the community instead of just rubber stamping something or putting forth stormwater regulations that aren't effective. Now, here's a few examples. This council approved and fully funded a stronger stormwater code for new development. The former code would hold 1/2 an inch of water on a building lot. This new code holds twice that at 1 inch. That's real change. We approved a 10-year lakes management program to clean up the lakes, which haven't been cleaned in over 40 years. Are you okay with that? I'm not. Again, that takes debate. That takes consideration. These lakes feed into larger bodies of water like Moorings Bay and Venetian Bay. We adopted a summer fertilizer ban to reduce pollutants, which run off during rainy season. We approved the final portion of the plan to convert the homes on septic tanks to a sewer system. Those septic tanks just leach out into our water bodies. What else can we do to reverse the decline? Get involved. My ask is for you to get involved. This past September 15th, the city had a matter before us which involved the developers of the Neapolitan Plaza where Publix is located. The plaza wanted to redevelop the property as they planned for a new Publix. This was the opportunity to ensure the redevelopment complied with the new stormwater code and alleviate pollutant runoff into the bodies of water such as your own. What happened? They took a half step. They really didn't care enough to be in full compliance with our stormwater code. If you really care about improving our water quality, a lot of people say it, but if you really intend to make it happen, get your boards involved. Get your boards involved of the buildings in which you live. I'll do my part. I'll share our future agendas so that they can see what's coming on the agenda and how it's going to impact the projects that are going to be closest to you. Follow the example provided by Joanne Smallwood around Swan Lake that's close here. She's a change agent and proof that positive change and water quality can happen. I'm a big Publix fan, make no mistake about it, but I voted against that redevelopment simply because of the lack of commitment to water quality. Again, judge me on my actions, not on my words.
We're ready to move on to our experience.
Clock is ticking, I know. Seawalls. Folks, this seawall issue went on way too long. Finally, this council stopped the lawsuits. That's important. We accepted responsibility, although there was no deed in hand. Okay? We knew it was in the best interest of our community to resolve it. So what's going to happen now? 700 feet? We've already taken action on that. That's going to happen. The other 3,400 feet, I'm not going to sit here and debate about the actual action plan because there is no action plan in place. I will tell you this. I would support and I would lead council to have the subject matter experts, the engineers, properly survey and ascertain the condition of those dead men that come under the ground and hold that wall up. We need to find out the condition of those and then have a plan. After they come back to us, listen to their advice, and then take action with a sense of urgency. Okay? The experience on, I want to move to a different page here. Oh, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Coastal Resiliency Plan. These folks are reconsidering their tentatively selected plan. For me to sit up here and comment and wonder about what they're going to come forward with, it's a waste of your time. Let's wait and see what they come forward with. Whenever they come forward, I'm going to get with your leadership, see what your thoughts are, see what your ideas for improving that plan might be, and then advocate to get it done. Okay? Now, police, fire, first responders. Many of us have been hearing a narrative which are attempts to frighten our residents about safety and to imply that we're losing police, fire, and other city staff for reasons which those spreading the narrative accept no responsibility. The city of Naples has no room for candidates adopting scare tactics. I've seen this movie before, and so have you. We see it playing out all around our country right now. A divisive tactic common in big cities, not here. There is plenty of blame to go around, and what matters is how we're going to address the problem. I'm about solving problems. I've identified the root causes of this problem. Now I'm leading individuals to act with a sense of urgency and make needed changes. So what has been happening since 2008? I've personally acquired the details, and I want to share them quickly with you. First, crime has been consistently coming down over the past 14 years. I'm going to show you that. Our police chief just stated that this year crime was again trending down another 9% compared to last year. This is your crime rate over the last 14 years. Do you see that? It's not going up. It's coming down. And I want to pass on my sincere appreciation to the police chief and the entire force for the actions that they've taken. In the last 12 years, the average pay raise for our police has been 1.9%. Are you okay with that? That's 12 years. I've only been around 4. That's simply unacceptable. This places Naples well below the 50th percentile in municipal salaries in Southwest Florida. If we want to attract the best employees, the best first responders, we need to be closer to the 80th percentile or higher. Let's get the cream of the crop here working and protecting us here in the city of Naples. A recent market study that the City Council commissioned found us 20% below the market rate in first responder pay. How did this happen? It started in the 2009-2010 timeframe when City Council actually took away pay and benefits from the first responders. That's a huge setback, which has carried forward to today. This will stop with this council. You have my word on it. We will not be.
Apologies,
Yes.
Terry, we have to go to the next point.
Let me finish. I'll forfeit time on some of the other questions. This is a very important issue to our community. This will stop with this council, and you have my word on it. We will not be irresponsible with taxpayer money. Nevertheless, I believe you will be very pleased with where we end up in our negotiations, which are ongoing now. And next, I want you to listen to this issue, causing us not to be able to hire and retain new first responders such as police and firefighters. This problem is caused by policies adopted by union leadership, supported by even a candidate you'll probably hear from today. The issue is this. The union has a policy which forces experienced officers transferring from other parts of the country to be busted down to the pay of a rookie policeman right out of the academy, no matter how much experience they have. We can't pay them commensurate with their experience. Is it any wonder that when these experienced police officers come to work for us that they leave in just a couple months after someone provides them with a police car and a higher salary, not constrained by union policies? This is called slotting. We've lost numerous officers due to this outrageous policy. We just lost an officer with over 10 years of experience to Collier County for the same reason. It's happened over and over again. And finally, the starting pay rate for rookie officers has not been allowed to grow at a rate which allows us to compete with other communities. Disproportionate raises have been given to higher ranking officers. Does this help us hire and retain the policemen that we need? I think anybody in here with any background in business understands that it's not going to cure the situation. It's dishonest for anyone to tell you we have a shortage in first responders, then blame it on everyone else and leave out this nasty policy practice of not compensating experienced officers when they hire on with the city.
Excuse me 1 second. Timekeeper, how are we on the? We're ready for closing. So we're going to miss 2 points, but go to your 2-minute closing, no more than 2 minutes, please.
No more than 2 minutes. You've heard a narrative about city council being ineffective, spending too long in meetings, directly implying the work which city council's been doing has taken too much time. Think about that for a moment. Where is this narrative coming from? It starts with those who talked about getting things done, yet couldn't get the priorities of the community addressed when they had a chance. I'm going to provide you a few examples. Again, remind you, they took the time to sue over 1,500 voters. They found it took no time at all to rubber stamp all the site plans with deviations from our codes, approving hundreds of variances along the way. Time flies when you don't have to include the public in backroom deals to overpay for a parking garage. What takes time is ensuring that the people have a voice, Over the past 2 years, site plans with deviations have been repealed. I led the way in raising the threshold criteria to approve building variances. You now have a stormwater master plan approved and fully funded. Lakes remediation funding, key to stormwater management and water quality. Does all of this reflect the community vision? Yes. Did we go late into the night many times to get it right? Yes. Was it worth it? Yes. Years of talk versus 18 months of solid action on the residents' key issues. Do you really want to go back to the old ways? Do you think it's a wise decision to seat candidates who are already pushing for quick meetings and who will be quick to approve more variances, erode our environment, use disgusting scare tactics about safety, yet be slow to address resident key issues? Folks, there's never been a time that your vote has been more important. You have influence on others. I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Ian Rudnick. Sorry, we ran a little late there,
that's
but
okay.
we'll start with a 1-minute opening on your part, and then we'll move into about 2 minutes per question,
Okay,
and then a 2-minute closing. Thanks so much.
perfect, thank you.
Please.
First, I want to thank GSAC for hosting this, and for everybody coming out. To me, this is what small town government, a town like Naples, is all about. You coming out here, letting me speak to you, so that on February 1, when you check that box, you're checking it as an informed citizen of the city of Naples. I started out 1991. I moved down here with my family. I was 9 years old. I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school here. After that, I went to Florida Atlantic University, received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and came back here and started a career with the Naples Police Department. Through my 17 years with the Naples Police Department, I rose to the rank of Assistant SWAT Commander. I was in charge of our crime suppression team, which essentially is their vice narcotics unit, all of your undercover units, Homeland Security Task Force, and detectives with the DEA Task Force. May 17th of this year, I retired, and I started focusing on my second career that I started in 2013 in real estate. Yes, sir. Sorry about that. And then when I saw that the election was coming up, through my last few years, I saw some changes in our city government that I was unhappy with. And I could either complain to my wife and my 5-year-old daughter about what is going on, or I could step up like I did in my law enforcement career. If I saw something that needed to be changed, something in the community, I stepped up and I was a person who led the charge in changing it. So here I am running for city council, and I'm very honored to be able to do this, to get back into service to my community. Only 6 months out from serving the city of Naples, so I'm ready to get back in.
Very good. Thank you. The audience has the questions before them. You have the questions before you. Rather than me repeating those questions and digging into your time, we'll just start with the first one, which is our experience.
Okay. So you're talking about how to define the small town character?
I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Our place.
Okay.
My apologies.
No, that's okay. Throwing me a curveball.
Yeah. Well, just try to keep you on that.
So when we're talking about small town character, my definition of small town character is a little bit more than just your brick and mortar. Small town character is, I raised my daughter here. She sees that I'm in city government. I worked for the city. She sees how the city has treated me as an employee and what I've done for the city. And now she wants to get into that same service. And then her children see that she does something like that. And it continues from children to grandchildren to great-grandchildren. Because the people who are building the city, the people who are serving the city, their children are the ones who are going to continue that legacy. And we can't just define it by a building. We can't just define it by a structure. It has to be defined by the people who are in our community. They're not transplants to our community. They are people who have been here, have served here, their children will serve here, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, and it needs to continue as a legacy in this town. Do you want me to read the question or just go to the next one?
There's another aspect of that, or do you share the concern with the city and so on and so forth, or you're ready to move on to our nature? We start on the clean water.
Okay.
And I'm happy to,
Okay. Yeah, do you share the concern with the city losing a small town character? You know, I do, because we can't just close off the city. You know, Collier County is growing, and we can't stop the growth. It's something that is gonna affect the city. People are gonna come to the city of Naples. They're gonna wanna be here. They're gonna want to go downtown, go to our beaches, you know, all of these things. I said, so we really do need to work with Collier County on ensuring that we are leading the charge, essentially, in providing what the community wants and providing the resources and the employees, the staffing to deal with these concerns.
we'll move on to our nature. Clean water is a start.
Okay. So as far as declining water, I think we've already started the process. There's a lot more work to be done. The process didn't just start in the city of Naples. This process has to start statewide with Collier County and then eventually into the city of Naples. You know, I watched a lot of the marine life a few years back during the red tide and the algae blooms. You know, and we had a lot of problems with getting the police boats out there. People didn't want to, you know, open their windows, open their doors because of the respiratory issues. So Naples is a coastal town. It being a coastal town, we need to make sure that the very thing that draws people to Naples and makes Naples Naples is preserved. And that starts with working with the state, working with Collier County, and ensuring that we take those plans and they fit the culture of Naples.
Would you care to comment on sea level rise and resiliency?
Yes. I don't know how many have actually looked at the Army Corps of Engineers plan. Very, very difficult to understand. I'm not sure even the Army Corps of Engineers understands what their plan is, to be honest with you. On the surface, I can tell you that that plan does not have the best interest of the city in mind. It is not looking at our culture. One thing the federal government does great is they put a blanket on an issue. I've worked with federal task force, I understand that. The one thing those federal task force did really good with when I was working there is they brought local people in to make decisions in their community. We can't just let the Army Corps of Engineers come in here, put a blanket that they're gonna do in other places in the United States and think that it's gonna work for our community. It is our job as city residents, as city council, and as people in the community to ensure that the plan fits our needs, not just the needs of the government.
We'll move on to our experience. Your input on the seawalls and sidewalks along the bay.
So dealing with the accountability and updates from a city manager. I mean, when these plans are put in place, they're put in place by employees who unfortunately don't stick around to see them through because the current city government pushes them out. If the city manager and the director who put the plan in place isn't here while it's being implemented, then there's very little accountability. So we need to ensure that that city manager, that director of the department who put that plan in place is retained, that they feel as though the job they're doing is worth it. When they leave, a new person's gonna come in And they're gonna look at that plan and they're gonna have to start from scratch. And they're gonna have to play catch up as it's being implemented. So that falls back to, we need to take care of our city employees. We need to take care of the people who are putting these plans in place, who have worked hard to put these plans in place. We need a city manager who's gonna stick around, who's not gonna be pushed out, who's gonna be here and make sure that everything that we've laid as framework for this city continues. That it's not someone new starting over, that it's not a new plan. It is a plan that he has worked on or she has worked on. They're part of our community. We need to keep them as part of our community.
This second aspect of that category, safety and security, are highly valued by residents, very much within your expertise, if you will.
Yes, this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. 17 years with the Naples Police Department, not just a patrolman, rising through the ranks of a tactical team, working to supervise a detective bureau. If we don't have police and fire, we don't have a safe city. When you're calling in the middle of the night and you need help, whether it's a medical issue, whether it's a law enforcement issue, if we don't have the resources to respond to that, every tree we plant, all of the clean water, all of that is for nothing, because you can't enjoy your city because you are not safe. First and foremost, we must, and I repeat, we must ensure that we have a strong first responder force in this city, that we retain those employees, that they have competitive salaries, they have competitive benefits packages, that they feel appreciated in our community and by our local government.
We'll move to our economy, time-wise. A vibrant and profitable business community ranks high in importance. Can you address your thoughts there?
Do you want me to address the, you skipped over the NCH?
Well, we ran out of time on that.
Okay, sorry. So the 4110 district is on here. I was a TIF officer that worked in the 4110 district. Essentially, we had two TIF officers that ran from 5th Avenue South, another one that ran through to 5th Avenue North, and it ran up 10th Street through the 4110 district. That area has so much potential. Until recent years, it hasn't been able to get the traction that it needs. I watched the business owners, the residents that lived across from there, try to push that area to be a bigger part of the city, a part of the city that drew people into it, same way that draws people to 5th Avenue. Our city government needs to work with the business owners who have essentially been working on that for the past decade to ensure that their plans can be put in place, that they're given an opportunity to put them in place, because we're all gonna profit from that, and we're all gonna be able to go down there and enjoy the fruits of their labor.
The cost of housing, if you will.
We know that the cost of housing has grown exponentially. The city of Naples essentially doesn't have affordable housing. Collier County is large. We need to work with Collier County to identify areas where we can put affordable housing. And I hear the term low-income housing and things like that. It's not that. It's affordable housing. It's housing for your nurses. It's housing for your police officers, for your firemen, for all of those people that we rely on every single day so that we can go about our lives and enjoy the beauty of Naples. The city needs to work with Collier County to identify areas where we can put affordable housing, plain and simple.
We're ready for the last category, Ian, our governance.
So I'm gonna go into this a little bit lighter. Our current form of government is not working. Our current council is not being efficient. And I'm not gonna personally attack anybody, but we need to understand that. And everybody needs to understand that. It is just not working. The mass exodus of department directors, of key staff, and of employees is unacceptable. We cannot continue to lose the very people we rely on every single day. Your police department, your fire department is at minimum staffing. That creates a huge safety issue. We don't have a current city manager. It is being held by our fire chief. That is an issue. We cannot continue to push employees out and try to fill them with other positions, other employees, because eventually we're going to run out of the reserves. And that's coming very fast. So our government needs to change something to ensure that this doesn't continue.
You're ready for your 2-minute closing.
So on February 1st, a vote for me is a vote for the Naples kid who grew up down here. The kid who went fishing at the Naples Pier. On a half day of school, I went and played volleyball at Lattermilk Park. I broke my leg at Fleshman Park. I was treated at NCH downtown, which my father was not very happy about because of the ambulance ride. That is who I am. I have been in Naples for 30 years, essentially the majority of my life. I don't ever plan on leaving, and I don't plan on my daughter relocating somewhere else, because why would you? Why would you leave the city of Naples and all of its beauty? Why would you not want to raise your children here? Why would you not encourage your child to raise their grandchildren here, your grandchildren here? I am Naples. I will always be Naples. I will always be part of this community. I served it for 17 years, and I'm going to keep serving it passionately. I'm sorry I get choked up about this, but this is near and dear to my heart. I love this city. Thank you.
Our next candidate, if you will give him a round of applause, is John Dugan.
Morning, sir. Nice to meet everyone. I'm so pleased that so many people are coming out to support this election. Everyone should know that, since I've gotten started, I'd rather stand, sir.
You can't on the
stand?
camera.
Sorry. Go by your rules, then. How's that? So in the end, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. And this election, part of how I get into this is I found out that so many people weren't voting. And part of my motivation here is to get our hands back on the wheel. So I have an opening if you want to get to that. And I've prepared some written responses to your board's questions.
Well, we have a format, so we'll just take that. You have a 1-minute opening, which I think you've just started. And then we're going to go into these questions. There's 5 of them. Okay. And you got about 12 minutes there.
5 of 12. So you sent me a dozen. You're only going to do about 5.
Well, there's aspects of it, and you've got those before you.
One of the things you find out when you're a new candidate is that you don't control the rules. So the first thing in my opening, folks, is everyone tells me that I don't smile enough. Okay, so I'm trying to smile, but for me, this is very serious business, what we're getting into here. Okay, where we are, what we decide to do going forward is going to be pretty important to us. So my name's John Dugan. I came here in 2003 with my parents. And in 2010, I became a resident. My aspiration is to follow through on the vision that one of your residents and board people was very involved in. The reality of the fact is the vision is a great description of what we want to be. It's not a great description of how we want to get there. And so my goals for the meeting today are to share with you my skills, why I think my skills will help with that problem, and then my platform. My skills came from 2+ decades of management consulting experience globally, cross culture, cross industry, cross business function. My specialty was difficult situations. Nobody called and asked me to come because things were going well. Okay, things aren't going well at City Hall, as you know, right now. Anything I would do there would be guided by transparency, the understanding the implications on the community, putting together a plan and understanding the changes in that plan, and encouraging teams. If you don't know, 11 people have left us this year in the city, and they weren't not knowledgeable resources, okay? My goal is about turnout, lifestyle, growth preparedness, public safety, and to bring us forward into the next generation.
Very good. So we'll start with our place.
Sure.
We won't read the questions aloud because that gets into your time. The audience has the questions, you have the questions, if you will.
In the audience also, some of them, about 50, have the answers written, so hopefully that will help the group out. But generally, as I've already said, what I'm trying to pursue here is a vision. It's been written multiple times, what we want to be. The problem is, how do we get there? My goal for the vision, I'm a guy from Boston. I always like the acronym CHEERS. I like a place where you go where everybody knows your name, okay? And I've used it over and over and over again in my life. And that's what I'd like us to be. And I've been here since 2003, and I can see the difference now, since the last election. What's happened is acrimony's cropped up all over the city. We could talk more about that, but it has to do with the postage stamp lot changes, what's going on in the county, and what's going on in the city limits. Have I covered that enough for you, sir?
Well, we're talking small-town character and culture. You want to speak about that, or do you want me to move on to the
Well,
next one?
I think I have spoken about that. If there's further question on it, I think that's where we are. It's not about the buildings and grounds with me, guys. It's about the trouble that we're having getting decisions at City Hall, and the fact that every time a decision gets made, it gets unraveled. There's reverberation around it that creates acrimony, and then people are wondering what's going on. I'm seeing that. I've walked from Seagate to the end of Port Royal. I've talked to more than 1,000 people myself at their doors. The messages are pretty common.
Our nature, clean water, you want to expound upon that?
So, clean water is part of my lifestyle agenda. There's two parts to my lifestyle agenda. The first one is protecting our freedoms. I don't want any infringement on our freedoms. The second one's about our natural resources. The first one being the water, the second one being our beaches, okay? On the water topic, from my standpoint, we have to have the best water there is. And unfortunately, one of the 11 that just left was Greg Strakalous, okay? He was the guy on the water. If somebody can explain to me why we wanted him to leave when that's our most strategic spend next year, I'd appreciate it. But what we need to do in a typical business context is a root cause analysis of where the pollution's coming from. We need to do water trend analysis on the wells that exist in the town now. We need to understand what's going on with the nutrients in the water. Pretty much we can talk about the reclaimed water and the phosphorus. We need to understand the incentives that we put into the business model of the water business. Right now, the reclaimed water is a high margin business. We're going to need to change that over time. We need to get healthy water. We need to have metrics that measure the dissolved oxygen, environmental progress of the manatees, the turtles, the grasses. I've had the good fortune to spend some time with the water director at FGCU, Dr. Tolley, and people from the Big Cypress Basin. They've educated me on this process of the potable water going back to being reclaimed, the phosphorus going into the water. That phosphorus then washes through to the ocean and we get the algae blooms. The fix on this, it's called an advanced water treatment plant. It's a biological fix versus chemical. Stay away from the chemical, you'll end up with sludge like we trucked into New Jersey years ago. We're going to have to spend some money on this, but that's generally what I feel is the deal with the water. I'm out on the outside looking in, but if I get in there, you can be sure that clean water will be top of my agenda.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
Our experience, the seawall sidewalk issue. Could you address that for us?
Yes. Seawall. So I've had the chance to walk down by those seawalls as part of my walk through your community and talking to your voters and look at that seawall situation. Obviously, I don't know why the city only took a 700-piece chunk out of the fix plan. To me, it's part of what goes wrong in the process right now. They take a tactical view of things. For some reasons, they look backwards on things. But generally speaking, my message to GSAC on this is, I would work with you on that. I would work with your leaders on that. I want that to be fixed. I want that to be as beautiful as it should be. It should not be a safety hazard to anybody involved. And I don't know how and why these issues take so long. Again, from my standpoint, I'm a businessman. I'd be running an issue log. There'd be statuses on the issues. There'd be a current write-up on where it stands. And when we make a decision, we do a better job communicating to the community. Communication is broken at City Hall. That's why I think people aren't participating.
You want to comment on safety and security?
Safety and security. What a travesty. Come on. When I get into this, I published a pretty high-level platform that I thought would put me in the middle of the candidates. There's a scrap at City Hall right now, okay? And so my goal here isn't to offend either side or to take alignment with either side. It's to try and win in an independent way so that on February 2, I have the credibility to try and persuade people to move forward, okay? So I come out as a resident in favor of the police, fire, medical, first responders. Before I know it, my phone's ringing off the hook, okay, with people that are being hurt by this. But we've lost 11 officers, or 13 officers, 25% of our staff. They're very unhappy about their salary, their health benefits, and their pension. I told them, as a management consultant would do, put together one page, show me the lifestyle, show me your salary, show me your benefits, your pension. Put lifestyle up top. Everybody will argue about Naples has the best lifestyle. Then show them a hockey stick. Everybody will say, duh, we need to fix that. So that's basically the conversation that I've had with the demographics in the police department, from the executives to the rank and file. Obviously, I know everyone here cares about law enforcement and wants that fixed. I don't need to tell you that there have been 2 shootings in town, one a fatality, both on 5th Avenue South and one on the north. Somebody unloaded an AK-47 into an automobile. There have been more breaking and enterings. All of this gets swept under the rug. I'm not necessarily averse to managing the information, but we should all know what's going on.
Shall we move to our economy?
Our
That
economy.
category.
Our economy. So the economy issue is about the 4110 district, as I understand the question and what we're doing there. Am I understanding you correct, or I missed the first piece? Well, or the Downtown Heart Institute, that one. So obviously, from my standpoint, we need to have a Downtown Heart and Stroke Institute, okay? No question about it. We should have the best health care in general. Again, from my business experience, there's a negotiation going on there right now, and I would always want to get something back for the community in return for any trades that were made. I will tell you that I'm not immediately in favor of an increase in the ceiling height. The reason that I'm not interested in the 42-foot is because I want to make sure that there's not favoritism, okay? But if you come and tell me that that's the only way we can do it, then that's the way we do it. My mother had diabetes for 70 years, okay? And there's nobody in the room that understands heart and stroke the way I understand it, and how those things interact with different systems in the body. So I understand that it all has to be there, and it has to be very readily nearby minutes. So I'm with you on that. There's no reason anybody wouldn't be. I am going to tell you that I'm going to force the issue on favoritism, though, because the amount of favoritism and inside handoffs and special interest stuff that I've found going on in this city is out of line, and we're going to have to get that corrected with an independent candidate like me. I'm not supported by any special interest. I'm not supported by any HOA board. I'm not supported by any union. My money came from me, my family, my neighbors, okay, and people like you that I knocked on their door and they sent me $25, $50, $100. So I'm trying to smile, but it's a very serious topic to me. The second piece of this is the 4110. I have questions about that process, guys. I'm going to tell you right now. When we have an issue downtown like the hospital, and we have an issue like traffic, and we have space there and parking that we might be able to use for something else, I'm looking at that, and I'm not the only one, and I'm saying, how do we come up with the idea of, a walk around more restaurants, maybe some appliance stores, whatever it might be. I'm just saying, I'm not sure that the council took a top-down view of how to use that land. A big picture view. And I would be part of that. I certainly support in that package the Carver apartment renovation. I don't know that 4 2-hour design sessions by the project manager they sent out here came out with the best outcome? Some of you might have been there, but not too many were. So,
Last but not
yes,
least,
sir.
our governance.
Governance, it's broken. Anybody that doesn't think the governance at City Hall is broken, hasn't been paying too much attention. I listened to those videos. It's really, really hard. But some of the meetings are 14 hours. There's a lot of contention. There is absolute, the voting. We don't know why they vote the way they do. And the funny thing about it is, a lot of them come out in consensus, which means it's getting negotiated somewhere out of our view, which I don't understand. So, from my standpoint on the governance, I have some very specific ideas, okay? And this will be coming along. But, it can be fixed. I'm offering the city a new service model, okay? And the point is, I don't think the President's Council works for where we are anymore. There's kind of no rhyme or reason to who's involved with that. And it needs to be more of a structured prioritization process from the residents on an annual basis where we trade off our agenda publicly, okay? People will either agree that that's a good idea or they won't. It's a suggestion. We all know about the reverberation between the council, the departments. There's lack of expectations, which is part of why people are leaving. There's not a just-in-time mentality on these committees and boards on the back end to help people get their business done. So I would have a checklist that basically got at expectations at the end of each event on City Council, and people would know what needed to be done and when. I'm pitching the idea of brand sales. We have some of the best and brightest in the world in our community. I think those people could, by topic, drive different agenda items through our city. I want to see us do a better job with our money. I think the City Council should take a position on how much strategic money should be spent every year versus allowing the departments to do tactical bottom-up budgeting, and we end up not spending it properly. And finally, to the point about the vision, the what we are, but how we get there in the issue. This comprehensive plan, if you haven't read it, right, it's goals, objectives, policies, and ordinances. When you get down to the ordinance level, it's thousands of pages, okay? But the point is, at the policy level, it's like a bird's nest. It's not mutually exclusive policies. They're not normalized, and they're not something you can immediately take action on. To be able to have an implementable plan, you have to have lanes that you're saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. If you start getting bound up, then there's a debate. Then something doesn't get caught. Then there's acrimony. That's what's impacting our culture. That's where I need your help, voters. I need you to go home today, call everybody up and say there's this new guy in town, and he's got some different skills, and he might be able to help us move forward. That's my ask, okay? Thank you very much. I very much appreciate your help, people. And I'm trying the best I can. This is a very hard process. Okay, do I have a close, sir?
Oh, you're.
Did I kill it?
We're right there. So
Okay, I had a couple more things. We gotta be upbeat. We gotta be aspirational about the city moving forward. Thank you very much. Have a good holiday, everybody. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
we're ready for our last candidate. If you'll give a warm round of applause for Beth Petranov.
Thank you for hosting. Should I sit down?
Well, last but not least, right? So just to refresh your mind, you've got these questions that we've proposed. The audience has them. I won't take your time by repeating them. And we'll start with a 1-minute opening.
Okay.
We'll end with a 2-minute close, and we'll handle the questions between. And there's my partner in crime on the time.
Okay, all right. My name is Beth Petranov. I've been a resident of Naples for 13 years, and 3 generations of my family call Naples home. I spent my career at GE and retired as vice president of GE Capital. Some of the accomplishments that I was lucky enough to do was manage a $50 million insurance product, one of the most profitable in our business, and build an asset with the world's largest retailer that ended up being $2 billion in 18 months. I want to use my business experience to keep Naples great. And just what is Naples' secret sauce? It's found in our vision document. And I don't know if David Feit is here, but he is one of the authors of this. Two of the main ingredients is a small town feel and clean water and beaches. The vision document forms my platform. There are different definitions for small town feel by neighborhood.
Could you move closer to the microphone?
Oh, okay. There are different definitions by neighborhood. And for Venetian Village, it's easier to imagine what it's not. So I'd like you to close your eyes and imagine Venetian Village. A 4-lane road going into it. High rises all the way to the sidewalk. 4-story beach garage where people can park from all over the county and go to the beach. A 6-story enclosed mall anchored by a large chain store and another parking lot. This is what it's not. Venetian Village does have the neighborhood flavor of small town feel, and when I've talked to people in some of those towers, they agree with me. Why? Because it's not invasive to the neighborhood, because it preserves green space and has intimate spots for gathering. It has uncrowded beaches, and it's pedestrian scaled and friendly. Have we lost small town feel? I think a bit on Fifth Avenue. During the recession, we granted quite a bit of variances for density, height, and giving parking accommodations, and that's led to a bit of noise, traffic, and problems parking. The second item is, believe it or not, we have 230 special events a year in Naples. Most of them are downtown. That creates a lot of traffic and agita. They're a lot of fun, but I think we need to examine them closely because they hurt retailers. There have been studies that have said that small local businesses' sales drop 40% when one of these outdoor events occur, aside from the residents living there. And we also need to be more, to follow our rules because it's important by neighborhood that we create cohesion to maintain that small town flavor, whatever the definition is by neighborhood.
So I think in your opening, you've sort of covered our
Yes.
first aspect of our place, so then we'll move on to our nature,
Okay.
clean water.
Okay, this was a question about Moorings Bay. And water quality has actually declined. We have less biodiversity, which is sort of keeps a pulse on how healthy the waterway is. We also have an increase in total phosphorus, nitrogen, and bacterial counts. This exacerbates red tide because red tide will always be in this area. It also creates blue-green algae and a lot of dead fish that I'm sure are in some of your backyards. 6 lakes feed into Moorings Bay, and some of them have not been cleaned in 40 years. They retain stormwater, and they filter through and go through the bay. I think the current city council has gotten off to a good start. They have a 10-year CapEx plan to clean these lakes. But in my experience at GE, what gets measured gets done. And I think we can accelerate this by making sure we have good baseline measurements and then following through with milestones and cleaning those lakes. 10 years is too long. And we need to stick to our codes. We instilled new stormwater codes, and right after instilling them, we gave a pass to the Neapolitan Publix that feeds eventually into Moorings Bay through the lake system.
We'll move on, thank you very much, to our experience.
Okay.
Seawalls, sidewalks, et cetera.
Okay. Well, on the Army Corps of Engineers, I'll do the last part of Army Corps of Engineers. I don't support the solutions. $2.1 billion is a lot of money. 14-foot seawalls and gates probably are something you are not looking for. Maybe you are. I don't think you are. In early 2020, the city did a 150-page climate change vulnerability study. I would suggest we take that, dust it off, and look at where we are most vulnerable and what those solutions are. Additionally, we should be looking at FGCU's and University of Florida's Acuna report and some of the solutions coming out of that, which are more natural solutions, mangroves, dunes, etc. On the seawall piece, I'm glad the city has stopped suing the neighbors. That is a relief, but we have 2,500 feet that still need to be planned and built. I like the idea that it's a wall over a wall because it creates more stability and strength. It also allows for some natural filtration to occur. We need to CapEx this, and we also need to look for grants to see if there's any money around from the federal government to help us build this.
There's a third aspect, high quality and accessible healthcare.
Okay, well, on the issue of safety, on the issue of safety, we have found through a study that we are behind on paying our police, and we need to make this right. We have the money. They were capped at 1.9%, I believe, over the last few years, and they've fallen behind Marco, North Naples, and the county. So I think the City Council is committed to fixing this, and we should. But the second piece that needs to be addressed is we need to have the ability to pay for experience. And I don't know if somebody has talked to you about this already, but we have a union rule that prohibits any newcomer coming into the city from being paid anything more than a rookie straight out of the academy. And I don't think that's right, because we have a poaching opportunity from the north to grab talent that's experienced and bring it into our city, and I think we deserve this. Otherwise, the county's going to get them. On the hospital, asking me if we should have a world-class heart hospital is like asking if I like puppies. I love puppies, and I love the idea of a world-class hospital. I don't so much like the idea of it abutting a residential neighborhood and being able to build 100-foot buildings across the whole 20-some acre campus. And I believe that city is taking the right approach in workshopping this with residents, with the hospital, and I think everyone is going in with the right attitude that they want to find a solution to have a hospital with a 14-foot ceiling heights to accommodate robotic surgery and still have a residential neighborhood. So that will be going on shortly.
We'll move on to our economy.
Okay. 4110, that is the design district area. And I support hiring an urban planner so that we have a vision, and the vision results in a great area of town. In February, DPZ, that's the firm that we hired to look at this, is going to come back with a series of recommendations. City Council is going to need to look to see if it supports the vision, if it respects the heritage of the area, and then what kind of codes we would need to change to be able to create the new area. I support a decentralized community within it. It's a lot of little neighborhoods within that area with shops, low-rise living. It's where locals go to eat and shop. And where locals go, tourists always try to find where locals go. So I think it's really an exciting opportunity, and I want to be a part of it, and they are openly engaging the community, including all of you, to participate. Affordable housing.
Thank you.
Rentals are up 49% this year in Naples. That really puts a squeeze on affordable housing. The city engaged a company called the Bright Group, and they will be coming back in February. They've met twice before. February's meeting is where the rubber hits the road. They're going to be coming up with specific recommendations on what they would do in affordable housing. But in the meanwhile, I've been calling whoever I can find to get myself educated on affordable housing. I called Dr. Felke of FGCU, and he admitted there is no easy solution for affordable housing. There are some models in Philly, and there's some models, a really creative one in Sanibel that they've employed that with foundation money, all private money. I think that it's probably going to end up being a joint city and county solution, probably in the county, maybe at the former golf course that is at Golden Gate. So I look forward to seeing what they come up with on recommendations in February, and I'd like to be part of it.
Thank you. We're ready to move on to governance. And
Okay.
we have kind of a two-parter here, so
Okay, I can tee it up.
sure.
I think the city council has accomplished a lot. Some pretty hairy issues have come before them. That's led to long meetings and painful meetings. And part of this is the city manager, and it's not pointing blame, the city manager sets the agenda, but city council has input to it. I've been following the city and city government for 3 years, either on Naples TV, that's my favorite channel now, or in person on those hard chairs. And I actually got the documents for this past week. They received 1,000 pages on Thursday to go through to make decisions on Monday. On Friday night, they received an additional 400 pages. That's 1,400 pages, and that's 200 pages long than War and Peace. To read over a weekend, to digest, to understand, to make votes on. I'm a little concerned about this. I'm concerned about the long meetings. I think it leads to friction, and I think we've seen this in the meetings, and frustration on all parties. And I think worst of all, as a resident, I think it may lead to poor decisions, and we cannot tolerate that in Naples. In my experience at GE, a lot of us were black belt trained. It's a Six Sigma process where you dissect your business processes and improve them. And this is shouting at me that this process is broken. I think that for example, the supplement that was received on Friday night, in the world of quality, that would be defined as a defect. And you hunt that defect down and you figure out what's going on upstream in that process, and you fix it. So I think we should workshop some of these processes and with city staff, city council, maybe a facilitator in the sunshine, and fix the way that we are working so that there are not hurt feelings, frustration, and that we as citizens are getting the best decisions possible. On one major thing on the city is that we need to hire a city manager. We've gone through a couple of them. The fire chief is our city manager right now. And I've hired many leaders over the years. I don't think we're looking for an administrator. I don't even think we necessarily need someone from the government, but I'm from the private sector, so I have a bias. I think we are looking for the strongest leader that we can find, and it's a leader that is going to fill open jobs, many of which have been open for over a year, develop talent, reduce attrition, be a forward thinker, thinking about technology that's coming. It's coming with or without us. A good communicator, and this person, man or woman, is the umbilical cord between city staff and city council. It's vital we get that hire right.
The last would be the interface with the county before you go to your close.
Okay. The county is growth on steroids, and we are a victim of our own success. Everyone wants to come to Southwest Florida. We have the right, though, to defend what our city vision is, but we also need to collaborate with the county. We're 5% of the population and 27% of the revenue. We need to move from the kids' table to the adult dinner table and take our seat at 27% revenue. Davis Triangle caught us a little off guard, and that is literally at our gates, and they are building a lot of towers, and it's going to create a lot of congestion. We ought to also be looking at Goodlet Frank. The county initially has told us no, but we need to figure out a way to route through traffic north to south onto Goodlet Frank and then keep 41 as our business district. And speak of the devil, we ought to also keep one eye open for FDOT, who has proposed lane diets for 41, where you reduce the lane on each side and build sidewalks and bike paths. As this county grows, they will come into the city, and we are going to get crushed on 41. Imagine the city as a castle. We should also be looking at annex opportunities to perhaps shore up our moat around it, because we want to preserve our green jewel. One item that I was thinking of was re-looking at the Clam Pass garage. And I understand it was looked at before, and that every few years they think about adding a garage to make it like a Vanderbilt Beach, which I don't think you want. I think we need to figure out a clever way to make sure that we memorialize a parking lot there forever and not have a parking garage, because that will impede your beautiful, clean, uncrowded beaches. So we need, thank you. So we need to work with the county, but we also need to be, we also are the leader in shaping our city, and we need to step up to do that. I want to earn your vote. I have strong business backgrounds and very strong beliefs. I believe in accountability. I believe in the power of the team. I believe in strong ethics, and I believe in keeping promises. After all, this is a small town, and if you break a promise, you are bound to run into someone at Publix that's going to call you on the carpet for it. And I'm okay with that. I don't have any conflicts. I'm not even keeping my salary. I believe this is a service job, and I will work hard for you. I will even read War and Peace over the weekend if I have to make decisions on it on Monday. This is my town. It's my slice of paradise, and I want to keep Naples great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Oh, absolutely. Please.
Great job. So thank you all for being here today. It's always a pleasure for GSAC to put on this forum, and you give us encouragement to continue to do it. I hope you found it valuable. I hope you learned some things about each of the candidates, which will help you when you go to the polls, because that's the message. We need to get everybody out to vote. I think all the candidates told you how important this election is, and every election is important, but let's not miss out on this opportunity. Many of you probably do not know that we have a much lower turnout in this end of town than anywhere else in town, and we need to get that changed. So hopefully we can help you do that as we move forward. Also want you to know that this was all, as I told you, was live streamed, but it also was being captured on Facebook and also being captured on LinkedIn this morning. It will be on our website and archived and available, the GSAC website, until Election Day. So you can go back and look at it, review it. You can talk to your friends about going out and looking at it as well. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to take a look at this video in the next couple of months. And we also have some large groups who are also going to post it on their website. So thank you so much for being a great audience and being the in-studio audience for this live presentation. And in particular, I want to thank our technical crew, because I've been texting back and forth from somebody watching it, and they've said it's going great online, so thank you all. Thank you to Howard for doing a great job monitoring. Thanks to Daryl for doing a great job in terms of keeping people on time. We were only about 9 minutes late, which was pretty phenomenal with what we asked them to do. So anyway, have a great day. Thanks all for being here.